So in a couple weeks, we're going to be doing Dragon Con, and I'm going to be doing a Ted Lasso, AFC Richmond kind of cosplay with got the V-neck sweater, the official one. I went with a used one I got on Poshmark. One of the greatest things ever invented, Poshmark, obviously. My wife ordered this, and you know, I even went and got on Poshmark some Levi's XX chinos, khakis, which is what Jason Sudeikis actually wears frequently in the show, to do this little cosplay. It's casual cosplay because I'm going to be kind of doing more supporting staff kind of thing for my wife and daughter, who my wife has a couple of very elaborate costumes, and my daughter has at least two. Anyway, I also have a second Ted Lasso costume based on the latest season 4. He wears it in other seasons, but it jumps out immediately in season 4, where it's a white polo with track pants and some Air Force Ones or something. You know, I've got some Nike Air Force Ones to wear that are kind of alternate color. Anyway, Ted Lasso. The reason this show matters to me is in a time where projecting goodness into the world is an exception, Ted Lasso does it. There's a line from season 2 where Coach Beard is having a chat with Ted, and they're talking about, you know, getting over a certain woman, and Coach Beard asked Ted to never let him date another dancer again, and Ted says, all people are different people. So that's kind of the theme of this video. All people are different people, and that is with regard to men and women. Men versus women, if you want to be, you know, wrong-headed about it. It's not men versus women. It shouldn't be. It's not supposed to be people versus people. It's supposed to be just people. All people are different people. There are a lot of tropes, like we have to meet them where they're at, and that's not untrue, but it has been tropified. I was thinking about some stuff on the way to work this morning, where mainly what I was thinking about was how fortunate I was to grow up and be beyond a certain age by the time social media and various social media trends became trends. And I thought about a phenomenon among younger people. My wife's a teacher, a high school teacher, so I get a lot of insight into the lives of young people, you know, that she sees day to day. And thinking back to when I was a kid, one of the things that I remember about me as a teenager was that I wanted so hard to know that thing that was going to change my life and change the way I thought about things, and that revelatory great truth that would jump out at me and change my world. And I think that's not uncommon. It can happen at any age, but it's really easy when you're young to want that and to think about that. And the example I thought of this morning was when I was like 16 maybe, or 15, I was in American Lit, and we were learning about the American transcendentalists, you know, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Emily Dickinson, Leaves of Grass, Walt Whitman. And at that age, in my circumstance, hearing that there were people exploring these philosophical ideas was so exciting, and I thought, this is it. I found it. This is what we should be doing. And I remember going up to my teacher and sort of saying this to her, and she replied, a lot of young people find the Transcendentalists appealing. And I sort of knew it at the time, felt it at the time, and didn't realize it, the implication of it, until much later in life. But I understood it, and now feel it. Right. This is a relatively common reaction upon being exposed to these ideas. And so we all get over the Transcendentalists. Pin that. We all get over the Transcendentalists. A lot of us want at certain times in our lives to be blown away by something. One might even say nowadays, and I think the phrase might be used a bit out of context sometimes, but want to be red-pilled. And young men are looking for that as much as anybody else, maybe more than anybody else. And sadly, what they are finding is not good, healthy information. They're finding information telling them that, you are meant to be kings of the world. You are meant to be the masters of the house and the family, and all these things that are not useful. They're not useful in day-to-day relationships. They're not useful in overall life. You may notice I'm wearing the same shirt as the other night. That's actually because, when it comes to being home in the evening, I'll wear the same shirt 3 nights in a row. It's only for a couple hours until I go to bed. So, anyway, that's why I'm wearing the same shirt. But young men want something that's going to establish who they're supposed to be for all time as men, and that. Right. Young men want to be told who they're supposed to be, and oftentimes who they're told to be, I don't know if it's always been this way, but I know that nowadays it's oftentimes the wrong kind of person to be. And like I started out with, all people are different people. And that's only true up until the point where you can convince them that they belong in a group to be the same kind of people, and to embrace the same beliefs and ideologies. And if you can convince them to do that and get their money off of them, and get their support for you in the public eye, and get an army of toxic chads, to use the lingo, to support them, then they're gonna do that. I mean, exploitative people will do that to young people, and they're doing it to men, young men, boys, at an alarming rate. I don't think it's universal by any means. I think it's targeted. I think there is coded language that's used to reach out to certain particular segments of the, especially male, but Western young male population. And so I love Ted Lasso, because even though, at least in the first 3 seasons, there are overwhelmingly strong dichotomy, breakdown, separation between the sexes, every single person is understood to be a person in their own right. And, that doesn't mean that our socio-cultural norms are not important in bonding and bring us together and make us better in some ways. But when those sociocultural notions and ideas are meant to treat one group of people who are all people as all one type of people who can only be one way and do one thing and serve one purpose, that is prejudice of some kind. And in the case of what I'm my theme for these videos is the prejudice is towards females, women, girls. I mean, there's no other way to say that. There's a segment of the male world who wants to dominate women. I don't think it's inbuilt. I don't think it's natural. I don't think it's something that you're born with. It's learned. Just as racism is learned, just as any form of exclusion is learned, that's what this is too. But if it's learned in a closed home where you never hear anything else, that's one thing. But when it's pumped into young men through algorithms and through targeted, we put age restrictions on apps to protect children, and yet, because they have to be identified by age, it also makes it easier to target them with certain things that we've scientifically figured out they are more receptive to. I'm not advocating for the banning of a bunch of apps and technology, but anyone who's seen, I think it was probably Batman Forever, it was back in the 90s, I think it was George Clooney's Batman movie. George Clooney is fighting a bunch of villains. I think he's fighting Iceman, Poison Ivy, not Iceman, Dr. Ice? I don't remember. Anyway, one of the villains is the Riddler, and the Riddler is this invention, technology, tinkering guy who has invented a device to connect to televisions that then beams whatever he wants to say directly into the brains of the people who are watching, and that's how he controls Gotham City. We're there. It's not sitting on top of your TV, it's in your hand, and it's in our kids' hands, and we are letting them be pumped full of this nonsense. There's a lot of nonsense in the world. I'm not saying that toxic masculinity and misogyny are the only problems by any means, but it's the one that I think I'm best qualified to talk about, and maybe I'm not qualified at all. But either way, I can see the pattern. If I can see the pattern, just some dude who lives 8 miles east of the Georgia line in Alabama, then I think we can all see it, especially parents and people who didn't necessarily grow up in it. This isn't just old people complaining. This has real world consequences. I read a story today about a 16-year-old cheerleader who was murdered by her 18-year-old boyfriend. They had, they started out as kind of a normal high school couple, and then he began to use language and behavior towards her that her parents found concerning. He ended up shooting her through the window of her house while she was asleep in bed. And that could be random, or it could be something that stems from a bigger problem. The need to dominate somebody in a relationship means that you don't any longer see the relationship as two people. You see one person, which is you, and another factor that you need to rule over, and that will never be the path to a healthy relationship. And in the worst cases, such as this one, poor young girl was murdered by her boyfriend. So we need to never forget that all people are different people, no matter what they look like, what they're born with, who they say they are. We're all different people, and all people deserve respect, no matter whether you like them or not. And if you claim to love them, you definitely don't harm them, verbally or otherwise. That's what I got.